Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisom with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The men who were fatally shot off Maxfield Avenue in St. Andrew last night have been identified. They are 27-year-old Rashawn Clark of Spanish Town Road and 25-year-old Higler Leroy Edwards, otherwise called Image, of Belvedere Drive in Red Hill, St. Andrew. Two other men who were shot and injured remain in hospital. Reports indicate that the four men were patrons at a bar on Bentley Lane when a motor car drove up about 8:15. Two men armed with guns opened fire. The injured men were taken to hospital where Mr. Clark and Mr. Edwards were pronounced dead. The government has transferred $2 billion to the Contingency Fund. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark made the announcement in the House of Representatives yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, Jamaica's economic independence is threatened by our vulnerability to natural disaster. We're therefore breaking new ground by making this transfer of $2 billion to the Contingency Fund. We intend to supplement this amount with further transfers in future years in accordance with the Financial Administration and Audit Act.
The $2 billion transfer to the Contingency Fund follows the passing of a resolution to move its ceiling from $100 million to $10 billion. The money is being held in the Bank of Jamaica and managed by the Accountant General. Before the transfer, the fund had a balance of $94 million.
To further specify the circumstances in which these fiscal savings can be drawn for natural disaster recovery. The intention, Mr. Speaker, is that these hard-earned fiscal savings being transferred to the Contingencies Fund are for use only in the event of natural disaster.
We are on board with that, and we look forward to playing our role in ensuring that an appropriate design comes into legislation to make the FAA fit for purpose in that regard.
The government has been working on a comprehensive policy for natural disasters that will ensure that Jamaica can recover quickly in the event of earthquakes, hurricanes, flooding, or other natural disasters. In the meantime, the government has cleared its multi-billion-dollar street light debt to the Jamaica Public Service JPS. $2.1 billion has been paid to the JPS as at this month. The government made a $7.2 billion allocation early in the fiscal year.
And this allocation will bring the total payout for the financial year to $9.3 billion, Mr. Speaker. And based on this letter that I have dated the 4th of March from the JPS, after this $2.1 billion, the government of Jamaica will not have any arrears whatsoever with respect to street light to the JPS.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark was speaking yesterday in the House of Representatives as Parliament passed the third supplementary estimates for the fiscal year ending March 31. It totaled roughly $802.6 billion.
Expenditure outturned for 2018-19, the third supplementary estimate facilitates the reallocation of fiscal space to certain areas of the budget where execution at February 2019 indicated much slower than program implementation.
The Jamaica Association of Transport Owners and Operators JATU says its members are silently protesting issues in the public transport sector which the authorities failed to address. Since Monday, operators have been placing a symbolic blue ribbon on public passenger vehicles. Among the issues is the lack of a fare increase since 2013. JATU also pointed out in a statement that there are not enough parking spaces and the taxi operators have to pay to install and maintain tracking devices on their vehicles. JATU President Louis Barton says the situation needs urgent attention.
The minister promised a number of things, and so far they're not coming through. And it come the 1st of April, which is next week, these things will be implemented, right? First of all, we didn't get promised for fare increase, but fare increase is a priority right now. We need to know about when or exactly when we are going to get our fare increase. Because we know the public are against it, but we cannot live without it. And not having a fare increase causes a whole lot of problems on the road.
The opposition continues to raise questions about the level of corruption taking place in various ministries in the Andrew Holness-led government. TVJ's O'Shane Masters reports.
More heat is being leveled at the feet of Prime Minister Andrew Holness following the recent allegations of nepotism and cronyism at the Education Ministry, which led to the firing of Education Minister Roel Reid. Speaking at a PNP meeting in Windsor on Sunday, President of the People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips, labelled the Holness-led government as the most corrupt. His comments come on the heels of the scandals which have rocked the country in recent months.
When you can have allegations about the integrity of a Minister of Education, I want you to understand what a serious implication that brings. Because if no else, them say, boy, man, in works and transport, well, you know about petrojama oil and this and that. But education supposed to be the example.
He says he is not satisfied with the response by the Prime Minister and the security forces tasked with looking into the various scandals.
The security forces and the heads of the security forces have not behaved in a fashion that gives us confidence.
Dr. Phillips says based on evidence which were found by security forces while looking into the Petrogem scandal, it's surprising no one has been charged with any criminal offense. He also had questions about the investigations into the Ministry of Education.
What has been published in newspapers, at least 5 charges, I'm a lawyer, but could have been made against people responsible.
The PNP president says what is happening is unfair to normal citizens. He explained.
I hear the head of the police force say that they want the power to lock up youth when not even charged for anything, because that is what state of emergency is. But yet people are accused for money and them walk up and down, and it's like you have to have double check, triple check, 4 time check before you can lock them up.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the JLP's candidate for Portland Eastern, Anne-Marie Vaz, is calling for the people to unite and lift themselves out of depression. She says the people have been in that state for the last 3 decades under the PNP's reign in the constituency.
I know that the words that we speak are meaningless. I came down here and I started to work quietly because I know that you're tired of the promises, you're tired of the sweet talk, you're tired of the big manifesto that one thing out of them never come to fruition. My manifesto is apparent all over this constituency.
She also took a jab at the PNP's candidate, Damian Crawford.
April 4, I will be walking down to that polling station and casting my ballot, something another candidate can do.
And we have an item of news just in. TVJ News understands that firefighters are now working to put out a blaze at the Riverton City dump in St. Andrew. Speaking on RJR News a short while ago, head of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Audley Gordon, explained that the fire broke out about an hour ago. However, he says it's not a big blaze, and so far there have been no reports of smoke affecting motorists using the Spanish Town Road area. He says the fire is expected to be contained soon. So once again, we understand that a fire has broken out at the Riverton City dump in St. Andrew. And of course, we'll have more details on that story in primetime news at 7. A shortage of dentists is causing chaos in the industry with an increase in the number of illegal dental practices. Jamaica has only 25% of the number of dentists required to serve the population. There are over 300 registered dentists, but 900 more are needed. And the head of the Health Ministry's Dental Preventative Programs, Dr. Renee Francis, was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica program on Tuesday. Dr. Francis says more persons are using dental professionals to correct complications.
After going to these butch so-called doctors,
yes.
Oh
my God.
Various pains and laceration and
I had a friend
abscesses.
who had a broken jaw.
Yes, yes. You do have that.
Braces can cost up to $6,000 locally, but unregistered practitioners are charging only 50,000 Jamaican dollars or $400 President of the Dental Hygienist Association, Stacey Tennant, explains what persons should look out for when they visit the orthodontist. And Jamaicans are encouraged to look up the credential of the dentists when they visit their offices. Registered dentists are also listed on the Jamaica Dental Council's website. The level of arthritis in Jamaica may be on the rise. That revelation following a free health fair in Aberdeen, St. Elizabeth by the American Jamaican Link Charitable Foundation. We have details in this report.
Each year, a team from the American Jamaican Link Charitable Foundation visits Jamaica to provide free health care and medication for residents in various communities across the island. On Tuesday, a team of 19 members from the United States visited the Aberdeen Health Center as part of a 3-day mission in St. Elizabeth. The group includes 2 nurse practitioners, 4 physicians, 1 dentist, and supporting staff. Dr. Roger Theodore has revealed that most of the patients had complaints about arthritis.
We see a lot of arthritis, and when I say arthritis, not the inflammatory kind like lupus and rheumatoid. We see more osteoarthritis, which is more mechanical, grinding away at the joints, the cartilage, and we see that because of the labor, the type of labor. A lot of the work is manual in this area.
But what was the reason for this?
A lot of people are self-employed, and as a result of that, we're seeing a lot of people with carpal tunnel syndrome with their hands, and also arthritis, the lower back, shoulders, knees, and feet.
More than 100 residents from Aberdeen and surrounding communities benefited from the health fair.
I see the medical doctor, and I get some medication, and I see the foot specialist, and it was a good experience.
But it's the first I'm coming, and it's a joy. I get my glasses, I get my mother medication, I get gifts. It's a blessing. I hope they come back next year.
Feel good, man. Then should I come more often if I even 3 times a month. Yeah, it will helpful, you know. Helpful because a lot of farming and we have pain and sickness, so we have to check up on our health and everything there, you know. Yeah, the health comes first, you know.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And it's time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the health report, we look at nosebleed.
If you look at this mobile portion of the tip of your nose, we call that the columellar. And there's a vein that runs right behind that called the retrocolumellar vein. That vein is actually quite superficial. And so sometimes when they're running around in the sun, the pressures in the head is elevated, the veins dilate, and even just simply touching the nose can trigger off a nosebleed in those circumstances.
That's the health report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. If you get a nosebleed, sit up straight and tilt your head forward, not backward. Pinch the soft spot of your nose closed for 10 minutes. Breathe through the mouth. Apply eyes to nose. Check for bleeding after 10 minutes. Apply a saline-based nasal gel inside nostrils. And avoid blowing your nose for 48 hours. Then blow gently.
And in sports, 4 finals are set to be contested on day 2 of the Issa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships. Our reporter Keon Raynor is at the National Stadium and now joins us live. Keon?
Thank you, Andrea. Well, those 4 finals to be contested on today's second day of competition are the boys Class 2 and Class 1 long jump finals. Those will be taking place in the afternoon session, as well as we'll be having the discus Class 1 girls and the shot put Class 2 girls finals. So after those 2 events, we'll have the first points on the board. However, quite possibly the biggest news coming out of championships so far is a suspected injury to poster boy for Calabar, their skipper, Christopher Taylor, who seemed as though he sustained an injury last evening, hearing that it may have been a cramp. When I spoke with a member of the coaching staff earlier this morning, they said that Chris Taylor is being monitored and assessed by the medical team, and they'll keep a close eye on that. However, long jumper and triple jumper Nikolai Williams, also of Calabar, who sustained a hamstring injury during the preliminary round of a long jump last night, is said to have been ruled out of the remainder of the championships. So that's about it from the National Stadium so far here. We had the 1,500 meters this morning. All the main protagonists have qualified, so we just keep a close eye on those events. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Keon. And of course, we'll have more in primetime sports at 7 o'clock. And that's the midday news. I'm Andrea Chisholm. And as I said, join us for the primetime news package at 7. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.